the wheel of WWE-related items worth complaining about, and on any given day, the arrow might land on too many goddamn belts. In 2018, the plethora of golden straps is bloated beyond necessity. Even today, NXT's adding a North American Championship, while 205 Live toys with the idea of Cruiserweight Tag Team belts. The inner children of Generation X and Y cry out for the simple times of a World, Intercontinental, and Tag Team Triple Crown, and nothing more. But those halcyon days of yore, they weren't so halcyon after all. While it's the common narrative to claim that those were the only 3 belts, in addition to the on-again, off-again life of the women's belt, up until the advent of the European title, there were far more championship tokens under WWE's jurisdiction. Throughout WWE's 55 years of life, there have been many belts, some more obscure than others, and some with shorter lifespans than the rest. Listed here are 10 particular belts that were either short-lived and are now long since dead, or perhaps they were ideas for belts that were never put into practice. We here at Cultaholic will shine a golden light on what was and what could have been. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 WWE titles you won't believe existed. Join us! Number 10, the WWE Martial Arts Championship. You could call it the realest WWE belt ever, since the matches in which this unorthodox championship was contested for were allegedly shoot fights. In 1978, Vincent J. McMahon awarded this newly minted belt to New Japan Pro Wrestling founder Antonio Inoki. Inoki would sometimes take part in WWE events as part of a working relationship between the two companies, and the belt was a championship affectation meant to augment Inoki's top star status. The championship disappeared from WWE canon altogether in 1985, when the working agreement between the two parties came to an end. Inoki never lost the belt in those 6+ years, and would in fact hold it until April 1989, when he dropped it to Georgia-born judoka Shota Chochisvili. I think I pronounced that right. Inoki regained the belt the following month, though it would be deactivated shortly thereafter in favor of a Greatest 18 Club Championship, which was awarded to New Japan star Riki Choshu. Other than raising Inoki's status for WWE crowds, the belt served no other purpose in WWE's self-contained universe. Number 9, the WWE North American Championship. Not the recent NXT creation, but instead the precursor to the Intercontinental Gold. In early 1979, WWE instituted this secondary singles title, and instead of holding a tournament to crown a champion, it was simply awarded to a man that had just recently debuted with the territory. That man was 25-year-old Ted DiBiase, who was still 8 years away from his identifying role as a trumped-up tycoon. Turns out that the $1 Million Championship wasn't the first piece of gold that he started the lineage of. DiBiase would lose the belt in June 1979 to Pat Patterson, which was the bridge into Patterson being acknowledged as the first IC champion that September. That November, Patterson lost the North American title to New Japan regular Seiji Sakaguchi, though the belt was no longer recognized on WWE programming. Its heritage ditched in favor of the IC Gold. Sakaguchi, near as most reliable information can provide, never appeared on any American WWE shows after the title switch. Number 8, the Tag Team Championship of the Universe. If you count the $1 Million Championship as a legitimate prize, and if you don't, go eat glass, then you have to at least lend a bit of credence to this set of vanity tokens as well. In the Attitude Era, the more irreverent creative tone allowed for some mid-carders to find their week-to-week voice in throwaway silliness. Case in point, the Headbangers. After beating the champs, the New Age Outlaws, by disqualification at Judgment Day, Mosh and Thrasher began wearing foam replica tag team belts and would eventually declare themselves as the Tag Team Champions of the Universe. Since the universe outsizes Earth, don't you know? This seems like an idea for a silly one-off, but the forgettable gag actually stretched into early 1999 in a feud with the Human Oddities. The Oddities actually won the belts on the January 10th episode of Sunday Night Heat, which led to the whole Time Killer being scrapped in short order. The Oddities finished up with the WWE shortly thereafter, and the foam gold was never brought up again. Number 7, the WWE Junior Heavyweight Championship. This belt had technically existed since 1965 and was exchanged among Northern Eastern-based grapplers Johnny DeFazio and Jackie Nichols. It wouldn't be until the late 1970s that the belt received more prominence, mostly on an international basis. That's when WWE Hall of Famer Tatsuji Fujinami had himself 2 lengthy title reigns with the gold, in total equalizing nearly 4 combined years. Fujinami's reigns preceded the belt's golden age, when the likes of Tiger Mask, Black Tiger, and Dynamite Kid set an impossibly high bar for future technically sound daredevils to match. Though the championship was more likely to be recognized on the outside of WWE's American scope, there was a rather notable title match in late 1984 at Madison Square Garden. It was there that the Cobra won the vacant belt by defeating Black Tiger in a 12-minute match that was almost unlike anything that a New York crowd was used to seeing. The belt would be abandoned by the end of 1985, though it would resurface in 1994 as part of the Super J Cup trophies awarded to the tournament winner, Chris Benoit. Number 6, the WWE Canadian Heavyweight Championship. In August 1985, Canadian strongman Dino Bravo was introduced to the crowd at a TV taping as WWE's Canadian Heavyweight Champion. The belt was apparently put into circulation days earlier, with the Quebec native simply declared the first champion. You'd have thought that WWE would have claimed that Bravo had won a tournament in Rio de Janeiro, but then one would have to consider the logic of a Canadian wrestling title being contested for over in South America. Bravo would defend the belt on Canadian WWE events in late 1985 against the likes of Jim Neidhart, Nikolai Volkov, and even Macho Man Randy Savage. The title was abandoned in January 1986 after Bravo left the promotion for an extended period. He would return before the year's end without the gold in tow. However, Bravo's reign with the belt would occasionally be mentioned by commentators like Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, as a way of boosting Bravo's credibility through a golden pedigree. Number 5, the WWE International Tag Team titles. The belts in question actually predated the more recognizable WWE World Tag Team belts that existed from 1971 up until their official decommission in 2010. The tag team title scene of the WWE in the late 1960s was a strange one, as from 1963 to 1967, the company used titles known as the United States Tag Team titles, while the more well-known belts didn't come in as stated until 1971. From 1969 until late 1971, the company used the International Tag Team belts, which were primarily defended in the Pittsburgh area due to a partnership with the promoters in that region. Steel City native Bruno Sammartino would hold the belts twice, including one reign with a Batman impersonator played by veteran grappler Tony Marino. The belts actually popped up briefly in 1985 in New Japan Pro Wrestling, won by Tatsumi Fujinami and Kengo Kimura. Number 4, the WWE Intercontinental Tag Team titles. Years after dissolving their partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE was looking for other ways to expand its empire into the Far East. Ultimately, their best attempt would come during the short-lived Super World Sports in 91 to 92, with whom the company held some notable joint events during that time. In early 1991, WWE entered a very brief working agreement with startup UWF Japan, also known as Universal Lucha Libre, with tentative plans for crossovers between the continents. During that short-lived partnership, the Intercontinental Tag Team titles were commissioned. They were awarded to Gran Hamada and Perro Aguayo in January 1991, who ended up being the only holders of said belts. By July 1991, after WWE and SWS had already collaborated on some major events together, WWE and UWF Japan broke apart and the belts were abandoned. UWF Japan itself went under in 1995. Number 3, the King of the Ring belt. In recent years, photos surfaced of an actual King of the Ring championship that, at first, one might assume was the work of an ambitious belt maker that simply created the strap as a side project. Others believe it was made specifically for Mabel, the winner of the 1995 King of the Ring tournament, as another visual token for him to have en route to his feud with WWE champion Diesel. To a certain extent, both theories are correct. The belt never made it onto WWE TV, but it was in fact made specifically for the real-life Nelson Frazier. The belt itself was customized by noted belt maker Reggie Parks, and was given to Mabel as a commemorative trophy of sorts, celebrating his kayfabe achievement. It was never meant to be seen on WWE programs, but Frazier did take a photo while holding the belt years later, whilst in his Viscera attire. One must admit, it would have been kind of funny to see Stone Cold toting it around in 1996. Number 2, the WWE International Heavyweight Championship. This championship predates the letters WWE, WWF, and even WWWF within wrestling circles, going back to the Capital Wrestling Corporation that was in existence when Vince McMahon was still in grade school. The only holder of the belt between its 1948 inception and its 1963 retirement was Antonino Rocca, the Italian-born acrobat who may very well share strains of DNA with the likes of Neville and Ricochet. The championship resurfaced in 1982 1982 on a series of house shows in New York State, which culminated in it being won by Tatsumi Fujinami. Fujinami took the belt with him to New Japan, defending it during WWE's working agreement with the promotion. Other notable wrestlers to hold the gold during this time frame included Riki Choshu, the man who invented the hold we know today as the sharpshooter, and Akira Maeda, a pioneer of shoot-style pro wrestling. The belt, like several others on this list, went by the wayside in 1985 after WWE and New Japan severed ties. Number 1. The Brahma Bull Belt. Since Stone Cold was a star of such magnitude, he wielded enough authority to have his own championship belt. The Smoking Skull Belt, as it was known, was a hallmark of Austin's time as babyface WWE champion in 1998 to 1999. When The Rock began to equal him in popularity shortly thereafter, there were rumblings that he would have his own custom strap, akin to Austin's Smoking Skull. Unfortunately, no such championship ever materialized in front of the cameras. But it did exist. The Brahma Bull Belt was commissioned at the turn of the millennium, the plate showing a bull's head with red eyes, framed by equally crimson lightning bolts. It's a sight to see, and it probably wouldn't have been out of place being carried by one end to the ring by our people's champion. For whatever reason, we never got to see The Rock holding it over one of his shoulders. Perhaps he was afraid that Austin would steal it and then chuck it into some icy river. So that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.